Welcome to another episode. What are you reading? What are you writing? A weekly video podcast features creatives, writers, and readers, and we come together to talk about books. I am your host, Karen E. Osborne, author of 4 novels and counting. I am so glad you're here. I think you're going to enjoy our next guest. Oh, you met Cappy a few months ago, and I know you fell in love with him like I did. I know you're so excited that he's back, and because he makes us laugh. He's a great storyteller. And he's brought his new book. He kind of teased us about it at the end of the last episode, and you'll see there's a link to that, so you can go back. If you missed it, you can go back and catch the previous interview. But today he's back with his beautiful, beautiful new book. Hey, Cappy.
Karen, thank you so much for having me back. It's so good to see you, and I appreciate talking about my new book. Thank you.
Yeah, so show us this beautiful book.
Uh, Let me show you a illustration.
That's cool too. Look at that. Wow.
So it's a chapter book that has 4 chapters, and the first chapter, it's about this princess. And by the way, her name is Princess Little Cap. My granddaughter's name is Annette Cap, so I get honorable mention. So she is Princess Little Cap, and my grandson is named Hud. So it's Sis Boom Ba, The Adventures of Princess Little Cap and Sir Hud the Brave, and they've got a very evil cousin that lives in the castle. Her name is Lamantha, and she does not like them, and she wants to throw them out of the kingdom. And so it's got the very first chapter title is called The Coup de Ba, B-A-A. There's a lot of puns. Hopefully there's a lot of humor that people will enjoy. She puts him in the royal canon, and Sir Hud says, "How can you do this? She's the princess." And Lamantha goes, "Well, there's mutton you can do about it." And so there's a lot of puns throughout the book, but the book basically is about self-effacement, self-doubt, strategy, honesty, integrity, and finally forgiveness, which we all work on. All of us have to work on forgiveness. And I think with the political environment we have today and with all the stress we have in our lives, it's nice to have a book about kindness. And that's one of the things that one of the characteristics of the book, that these 2 young Princess and Sir Hud the Brave, they learn kindness along the way.
Yeah. Did your grandchildren love it? Did you read it to them?
Well, my grandson says, Cap, who's 5 years old, by the way. He said, Cap, that's for children. I went, Hud, I know. and my granddaughter says, Cap, when am I going to become famous? And I went, sweetheart, it's just a book.
Working on it, right? You're working on it.
Exactly.
So one of the things that both your books, your wonderful Mark Twain book that celebrated the 25th anniversary of it, had a lot of humor, and this book has a lot of humor. But you went from memoir to children's book. So tell us about that. Why a child's book?
Well, I wanted to capture the beautiful spirit and hilarious sense of humor in a story for all ages. And the man who made Mark Twain famous didn't have a lot of pictures for my grandkids' taste. So I wanted to write them a book that they could enjoy, and also parents could enjoy, because it's the different levels of humor with older folks and also hopefully younger folks. So it's something that I wanted to do that they would enjoy reading and having parents read to their kids.
Yeah. Yes. So you co-authored this, right? And you also had an illustrator. So that's that's a lot of cooperation that has to happen and creative meshing. Tell us about that.
Well, I first wrote the story, and then I called one of my collaborators who helped me on my Twain book with the captions, and he's helped me in other things as well. But his name is Chandler Dean. I met him when he was 24 years old. He's now like 28. So, but he's worked on all kinds of projects with me throughout the years, and he's written for people like Stephen Colbert, Seth Meyers, Samantha Bee. So the kid knows how to write a joke. So the only snag was he rhymed it, but the cadence was off because all rhyming books have to have a certain cadence. And so my daughter, who is a PhD Princeton professor who has tenure at the University of Wisconsin, I sent it to her, and she basically changed the whole rhythm of the book, the whole cadence of the book, added gooseberry tarts in the book, made it so much nicer. And by the way, in the acknowledgments I sent to Chandler, I said, now, Chandler, these are going to be my acknowledgments. You can write your acknowledgments. And I said, we would like to thank Catherine McGarr for assisting us in writing this book. And he calls me and goes, no, we're not going to say that at all. We're going to say, Catherine McGarr has a super writing ability, and she's a much gooder writer than we are. So, yeah, no, that was good. That works. And Bill Dior did the illustrations, and I had met him through Roger Staubach's daughter, Michelle Staubach, who had written 2 children's books. And I had lunch with him at one of my favorite restaurants here in Dallas. And I said, Bill, can you draw a dinosaur? And he goes, well, yes. And I said, well, can you draw a dragon? He said, Cappy, I can draw whatever you want. He's a prize-winning cartoonist. Did the political cartoons for the Dallas Morning News for over 40 years, and he did the illustrations the old-fashioned way. He literally did them by hand, did not use a computer. And so I think when you saw the book, I sent you the book, but the illustrations are beautiful. They jump out at you, and only as someone who does illustrations by hand can do. So we're very pleased to work with. I was very pleased to work with Chandler and also Bill Dior, and it was a great collaboration.
Yeah. So what happened? Like you gave us a little hint because you sent something to your daughter, but what did you guys ever run into disagreements when you were collaborating? How did you work out these creative minds, 3 creative minds working? How did you work out any little snags?
Chandler and I are one great friends. And by the way, he's a young kid. Okay. He just got married to his grade school sweetheart a year ago. I went down for the wedding. He's from Houston, but he lives in New York now. And he's just a brilliant writer and a wonderfully nice person. And so he and I instantly bonded and have become very, very close friends. Bill is a new friend he did the illustrations, as I mentioned. It took him over a year to do the illustrations. So we've been working on this book for almost 2.5 years. It finally comes out this next week, right before Thanksgiving. So it was a very good collaboration. There was really no issue except for the amount of time it took to write it, to rhyme it, to make sure that it flowed correctly, and make sure that. By the way, in the acknowledgments, I acknowledge Admiral Bill McRaven, who was really coordinated the Osama bin Laden raid. He's a 4-star admiral. I got to know him because he was chancellor of the University of Texas, and he's written 3 books. The first one was Make Your Bed, which is based on his commencement address at the University of Texas, which was widely seen. And so those are the kind of the morals of this story, and I didn't beat those morals over the head of the kids. I just had them do it naturally, and having them learn about trial. The second chapter is called Pumpkin Iron, and so they're blown out of the kingdom. They're working their way back, and Princess Little said, "Sir Hud, look at that sword and the pumpkin. Have you ever read of the sword and the stone?" And Hud says, "Are you kidding me? I can't read. Movies and TVs are more my speed." So he says, well, never mind. So he tries to get the sword out. He can't get it out. He pouts. He cries on the floor. And she says, you've got to believe in yourself. That's 50%. That's half of the deal. And so there's obviously 50% is half. And so there's lessons to be learned along the way. He finally gets the sword out. And so it's a it's a fun story about, but also we tried to include morals and things that would mean meaningful. For example, when they take back the castle, this is one of my favorite moments of the whole book. They meet a dragon guarding the castle, fire breathing dragon. He's furious. He looks horribly and frightening. And Princess Littlecap says to Fufasaurus or Fuffy, the dragon, that they meet a dinosaur earlier in the story, and he's helping them take back the castle. And she goes, "Well, Fuffy, what do we do? This dragon's very terrifying." He said, "I think I know what to do." So he goes up to the dragon. He says, "How are you doing?" And the dragon says, just loses it, starts crying. He says, "That's the nicest thing anyone's ever asked me. No one asked me how I'm doing. The manta's made me, in the castle. She's been mean to me. She never lets me take a break." So, kindness obviously is so critically important in everyday life, but also in friendship, in marriage, in life. So
Yeah.
kindness was a very important aspect of the story.
Oh, it's a wonderful, wonderful story. Because I read it when I received your book. I sat down and I read it and enjoyed it. But just listening to you talk about it is making me enjoy it all over again. So, so
Thank you.
that is really awesome. Um, so just you've told us a lot about the story itself, and you've given us glimpses about the characters, but tell us what you like best about your two protagonists, or everybody, but what are the qualities you like best about them?
Well, Princess Littlecap and Sir Ed the Brave are loosely based, as you can imagine, on my grandkids, but they're also modern day reimagining of heroes in a fantasy story. I mean, that everybody reads growing up. And we know about brave knights, we know about brilliant princesses, but in this book, we explore basically how the best among us have flaws and have challenges to overcome. And that's the message I think resonates for all ages. And so, it's a fun book, but hopefully it's a teaching book.
Yeah, yeah. And we are complex, right? We do have flaws. So
We do.
what are you working on next?
Well, I've been working on. I think I sent you this short animation that was we sent to all
Yes.
media, including yourself. And a friend of mine from California, he used to work for Pixar. He worked on Finding Nemo and Ratatouille, Bugs Life, and Monster Inc. And he did a 1 minute animation. Holland Taylor, the brilliant movie actress, is a friend of mine. She actually did the Ann Richards show on Broadway. She was the mother in Two and a Half Men. She was in the morning show. She's the owner of the network in the morning show, and she was in Legally Blonde. She was the Harvard professor in Legally Blonde. Anyway, she's a really good friend, and I asked her to do it, and she said I'd be happy to, and so she did the narration. And so in my conversations with Andrew Gordon, who's with Pixar, I said, uh, Andrew, you did such a spectacular job. He said, well, we should do a 7 minute animation and to enter into film festivals. And the biggest film festival is in France. I said, okay, I'm in.
Yeah, I'm in.
I'll get 8 Vantage miles and go to France and enter the film festival. So anyway, we're working on that. It'll probably take 6 months to 8 months, but that is one of the things I'm working on. And the next book I'm working on is a book that is just an idea, but it's advice that grandparents can give their grandkids. And the working title is a title that half the people love and half the people don't. Groucho Marx had a song in Animal Crackers, "Hello, I must be going. Hello, I must be going." And so the working title is "Hello, I must be going." And one of the friends of mine who said he would help me in the book in terms of getting, some famous people to tell advice they would give their grandchildren, he said, that is so depressing. Hello, I must be going. You mean I'm not going to be around long, so I got to give the information. Then I'm going to go. I went, well, it's supposed to be funny. He goes, well, we need to come up with another title. So that is a book that I'm thinking about working on. But right now, with this children's book coming out, I'm working on obviously that and the animated 7 minute animation video of the book.
That really sounds cool. Um, so if you have the animation, besides going to Paris and entering it, how would it be like a companion for the book? How do how will those two work together?
That's a really good question, and I'm not sure I know the exact answer to that. But Andrew Gordon says, and I think I sent you the short
You
promo.
did.
And with a 7 minute animation, there needs to be more story. There needs to be characters that speak, and so that we need to flesh out more of the characters, personality. And
Hmm.
so we are in the process of writing a script for the animated 7 minute short. So I mean, it's going to take some time to do that. We have
Yeah.
story. I mean, it's like basically producing a film, a short film, and he knows what he's doing. Andrew, obviously, being with Pixar for as long as he was, I'm very fortunate to have him in my corner.
Sounds like something for us all to look forward to. This show is What Are You Reading? What Are You Writing? And we chatted so much last time that we never got around to talking about books that you are reading. So I have two questions for you about your reading. The first one is there some book, because you wrote a memoir, wrote an amazing memoir, you've written this children's book, you're now going to give this kind of advice book you're working on. Is there a writer that has had a really profound influence on how you approach projects?
It's predictable, but the answer has to be Mark Twain. I read Huckleberry Finn every year, and I read Confederacy of Dunces, which is by John Kennedy O'Toole, which is two brilliant books. They do characters spectacularly well. But the I love how Twain sets up Huck and Jim's relationship, and Huck trying to free Jim from slavery. I mean, it's a wonderful book. The books I've recently read that I absolutely love is I've gotten to be friends with. I have this symposium at the University of Texas called, coincidentally, the McGarr Symposium, and it's about sports and media. And Jason Gay is the sports writer for the Wall Street Journal, and he came to the symposium and participated. But his last book was "I Wouldn't Do That If I Were Me." So it just as funny as the title, and he's a brilliant writer. And I don't know if you or your viewers ever read Jason Gay, but I urge you to do so because he really has got a very quick wit, very satirical, and explains sports in a way that is also enjoyable, very very enjoyable. And the other one is Defense of Food by Michael Pollan. I mean, we really food nutrition is so critically important, and that book is really an eye-opening book to look at modern nutrition. And so those are really the two books that I've recently read. But I've got books stacked up that I haven't read that I look forward to reading. But
Yes, our to be read pile, right, is always this
it's always
long.
taller than my red pile.
Yes, yes, yes. So this has been so fun as it was the last time. Tell our audience though how they can find. So this is actually airing in December, so the book will be out when it comes out, when the book already comes out. So tell us how they can find it, how they can buy it for their children, for their grandchildren. How can they find out more about you and your extraordinary life? How can they be in touch?
Karen, that's very nice. They can find the book on Amazon, Barnes and Noble. Your local bookstore will have it. But we've got it's Amazon and Barnes and Noble are the two best known places to get the book. So I'm just appreciative, and hopefully the book does well because I think it's a meaningful book in this time of turmoil. It's about meeting your challenges and and being kind and being able to forgive. And that is such an important thing. And
Really
also,
is.
as you said earlier, and thank you for saying it, the book is full with humor. And, it reminds me, I was very fortunate. The Friars Club in New York invited me to chair the Quentin Tarantino roast, which raises money to Wounded Warriors Foundation. And I went to one of the tables, and this young man was there in a wheelchair. He had one arm. And I said, I really thank you all for your service. There's 3 tables of Wounded Warriors. And he looked up to me, Karen, and he said something I will never forget. He said, when I laugh, I don't hurt. Anyway, that's why humor is so critically important.
It is. It is. Well, thank you for bringing so much humor to so many people. So appreciated. Thank you for being a guest on the show again. And I hope you guys will rush right out and buy a copy of this amazing book. Sis
Boom, Bob.
Boom Ba.
Exactly right.
And I hope you will be with me next week for the next episode of What Are You Reading? What Are You Writing? Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Karen.